Good evening, everyone. Welcome to lecture 3 on environmental issues. So till now, what we have studied is what are different issues related to the environment. And one of the major issues is the pollution. So we studied about air pollution, water pollution, and we get to know what actually is pollution and the harmful agents that are responsible for deteriorating or degrading the quality of air, water, or soil that makes it unfit for the use of human, animals, and for the environment. Such harmful agents are known as pollutants. Also, we learn about various case studies where the government and the population and the people have tried to prevent the rise in the pollution. And in the last lecture, we learned about the water pollution. So in today's lecture, we will learn about different other types of waste which are being generated on daily basis, some of which are very common and some of which we are not really aware about. So, and what are the different measures that have been taken up by the at the community level and by the government of India at different levels to prevent the changes or the damages in the environment. So in the last lecture, we learn about the water pollution. So this is a case study where the people in the California, in the northern coast of California, have tried to manage the quality of water by collaborating with the biologists from Humboldt State University. So these people have actually, the people of Arcata, Arcata town, which is situated in the along the north coast of California, these people have tried to use or utilize, like they created an integrated wastewater management process with the help of the natural system. So wastewater, we know that that also includes the sewage water, can be treated in an integrated manner. So integrated, what is the meaning of the word integrated implies here is that we can utilize both artificial and natural process, and the combination of this can be used to treat the wastewater or the sewage water, and the water can then be made available to the use for the different purposes, that and the water can be made, the quality of the water can be improved using this integrated management process. So this is an example of such an initiative in the town of Arcata, which is situated along the northern coast of California. So these people collaborate with the biologists from the Humboldt State University, the townspeople, and this collaboration created an integrated wastewater treatment process within a natural system. So this treatment strategy, this integrated wastewater management process or the cleaning of water occurs in the two stages. The first is the conventional sedimentation, filtering and chlorine treatments. So the heavy particles are settled down, they are filtered and the chlorine treatment is given. So even after this stage, lot of dangerous pollutants, especially the dissolved heavy metals like mercury, still remains in the wastewater, because the sedimentation or filtration may allow the removal of the solid waste particles that are not dissolved, solid waste materials that are not dissolved, but still a lot of dangerous pollutants still remain dissolved in the wastewater. Now to combat this or to remove these harmful pollutants from the wastewater, the second step was developed by the biologist, where a series of 6 connected marshes over 60 hectares of the marshland was used. So appropriate plants, algae, fungi and bacteria were cultivated. So these plants, algae, fungi and bacteria that were actually included in this complete hectares of the marshland are designed, like they are selected in such a way that they neutralize, absorb and assimilate the pollutants. So the fungus, bacteria or the algae which are being used for this purpose are the ones that actually utilize these heavy metals for their metabolic activities, and therefore makes the water quality, like helps in the improvement of the water quality. So they may either absorb these pollutants, or they may neutralize these pollutants, or they may assimilate them. So hence, as the wastewater flows through these marshes, it it gets purified naturally without any filter system. So the marshes also contribute or also constitute a sanctuary, since these marshes are very rich and they consist a high level of biodiversity in the form of fishes, animals and birds that now reside there. So by creating such a long hectares, like over 60 hectares of marshland, basically, which is now a sanctuary which is a hub for a variety of biodiversity, or constitutes a high level of biodiversity in the form of fishes, animals and birds. So this marshland act as a natural filter for the dissolved heavy materials. And for the protection of this marshland, a citizens group called Friends of the Arcata Marsh, the short form of which is FOAM. FOAM stands for the Friends of the Arcata Marsh, are responsible for upkeeping and safeguarding of this project. So the people of this, so this was an initiative which was actually initiated or taken up by the local population of the Arcata town, and in collaboration with the biologists at the university, at the Humboldt University, these people developed and innovate in like a very strategic approach to treat the wastewater, where the wastewater was treated using an integrated management technique, where initially the sedimentation, filtration and chlorine treatment was given that allows the separation of the heavy solid particles from the surface of the water, and then the dissolved materials were removed strategically or very mindfully using different appropriate algae, fungi and bacteria that may help in the neutralization of these heavy materials. So this was about the case study related to water pollution. Then there is another initiative, ecological sanitation. So we know that a large amount of water is wasted during the process of sanitation. So ecological sanitation is a sustainable system for handling the human excreta. So we know that whenever we disposed of or whenever we washed off the human excreta, a large amount of water is being used. So instead of using that, they use the concept of dry composting toilets. So this is a practical, hygienic. It's not like that it is unhygienic. So it is hygienic also, it is efficient and is a cost-effective solution to the disposal of human waste. So this method utilizes the composting method, and the composting method, in this composting method, the human excreta can be recycled into a resource which is like natural, which acts as a natural fertilizer and reduces the need for the chemical fertilizers. So basically it is acting in two ways. Firstly, it is minimizing or it is reducing the use of the chemical fertilizers by substituting them with the natural fertilizers. Also, it is preventing the wastage of water by performing the by using the dry composting toilets, and where the waste material or the human excreta can be used as a compost and can be used as a fertilizer, can be converted into a natural fertilizer, thus reducing the need of the chemical fertilizers. So there are working eco-sand toilets in such working eco-sand toilets have been established in many areas of the Kerala and Sri Lanka. The next type of a waste is solid waste. So solid waste is anything that goes out in trash. Like for example, I drink a cold drink, I just throw out that can. So that is a solid waste. So the municipal solid waste are waste from homes, offices, stores, schools, hospitals, etc. that are being collected and disposed of by the municipality. The municipal solid waste generally comprises paper, food waste, plastic, glass, metals, rubber, leather, textile, etc. And burning, although reduces the volume of waste, but generally what happens, burning is not the ultimate solution, and also not every product burnt completely, and therefore burning reduces the volume of the waste, although it is generally not burnt to completion. And open dumps often serve as the breeding ground for the rats and flies. So this we have also seen that there are various dumping sites where the municipal waste is being dumped on the regular basis. And in such open dump places where the waste is being dumped in an open area, we found that these places serve as the breeding sites for the various types of flies, various and insects and various animals like rats and mice. So sanitary landfills were therefore adopted as a substitute for open burning dumps. So in a sanitary landfills, waste are being dumped in a depression. So basically a depression is being created after compaction and the waste is being dumped into this, and then this is then again covered with the dirt. So in this way, the waste may be, the biodegradable waste may get decomposed with time. However, the non-biodegradable waste will remain inside as such. Also, this is also not the complete solution, because for this also we need to dump, like we need to create many landfills, and but still it is better than the open dumps because it is preventing the breeding of the various harmful insects and the animals that may cause harm. So whatever waste we are creating can be divided into three types: biodegradable, recyclable, and non-biodegradable. So therefore, it is really important that whenever we dump any waste, we should actually perform the garbage sorting. So we should know that what kind of waste is biodegradable, what kind of waste is non-biodegradable, and what kind of waste is recyclable. For example, we know that paper are recyclable. Therefore, what we do is we collect those papers, we give them to the rag pickers, and these rag pickers perform a very great job and of separation of materials for recycling. So such items, plastic bottles, these can be recycled and can be reused. So it is really very important to strategically like sort the waste or the garbage which is being produced on the basis of its property. For example, we can collect the peels of the fruits and the vegetables in a separate container. We can then compose them. We can use them as a for composting, and then we can use them as fertilizers at home, or instead of dumping it in the municipal waste. So this type of sorting may also help in reducing the burden. And the biodegradable materials, for example, as I mentioned, that the fruits, the peels of the fruits and the vegetables can be put into the deep pits in the ground and be left for the natural breakdown, because by the action of the bacteria, different types of bacteria and fungus, these materials will break down naturally, resulting in the compost. So that leaves, so basically, once this we separate the biodegradable material from the non-biodegradable material, we automatically reduce a large chunk of the, like we automatically reduces the large burden on the municipal like the municipal authority to collect the waste. So because only the non-biodegradable waste remains to be disposed of, the need to reduce our garbage generation should be a prime goal. Instead, we are increasing the use of non-biodegradable products. So the prime goal is to reduce our garbage generation, because that is the only, like that is the main solution that may help in reducing the amount of the garbage. And the state government across the country, different state governments across the country are trying to push for reduction in the use of plastics, so and the use of eco-friendly packaging. So we as humans can also contribute a little bit into this, and the little contribution from each of us may help us in preventing the waste production to a large amount. For example, whenever we go to the market, we can carry our plastic bag, we can carry the plastic bags which we already have, or we may carry some cloth bags. It is really very, like, it will be really helpful even for us and even for the community, and even from the environmental point of view. If we carry our own bags, if we all start carrying our own bags, either they are paper bags or the bags that are made up of some biodegradable material like cloth bags. It is really very good practice. And these small practices, the differences in these practices on the daily basis may help in reduction of waste to a large extent. Besides the normal household waste or the waste from the office, hospitals also generate the hazardous waste that contain the disinfectants and other harmful chemicals and also pathogenic microorganisms. So such waste require very careful treatment and disposal. We cannot dump these waste in the open, as these waste might contain some harmful bacteria along with some harmful chemicals. And the use of incinerators is crucial to dispose of the hospital waste. So in incinerators, basically we burn off the waste and the irreparable. So basically it is really important that we should know that not every waste can be disposed of in open, and we should also know that how can we sort the garbage on the basis of their properties. So these small practices will help in reducing the amount or the load on the municipal in relation to the waste management strategies. Now there is another kind of waste which is known as electronic waste or the e-waste. So this is kind of a new term maybe for many of you. So this electronic waste or e-waste includes the irreparable computers and other electronic goods. So the other electronic goods or the irreparable computers that cannot be repaired anymore and are of no use, such waste is known as the electronic waste. And electronic waste are basically buried in the landfills or they must be incinerated, because these waste also contain the harmful, because the chips that are made up of that are like these waste may contain some harmful chemicals. So over half of the e-waste generated in the developed world are exported to developing countries like China, India and Pakistan, where metals like copper, iron, silicon, nickel and gold are recovered during the recycling process. And unlike developed countries, which have specifically built facilities for recycling of e-waste, recycling in developing countries often involves manual participation instead of machineries, thus exposing workers to toxic substances that are present in the e-waste. So these are some different kind of waste that we should be aware of. So a case study. So this is the next case study where like a 57-year-old person from Bangalore has decided or has tried to manage or find a solution for reduction of the plastic waste or for the use of the waste plastic for some like repurposing of those waste plastic for some useful material So a plastic sack manufacturer in Bangalore has managed to find the ideal solution to ever increasing problem of accumulating plastic waste. So Ahmed Khan, aged 57 years old, has been producing plastic sacks for 20 years. And Polyblend, a fine powder of recycled modified plastic, was developed then by his company. So their company basically developed a fine powder from the recycling of the plastic waste, modified plastic, which is known as the Polyblend. And this mixture is mixed with another material, which is bitumen, that is used to lay the roads. And Ahmed Khan proved that the blends of the Polyblend and the bitumen, when these blends were used to lay the roads, it enhanced the bitumen's water repellent property, and thereby it helps the increment of the road life by a factor of 3. So this increases the strength of the roads, and therefore this blend material, this blend, which is a mixture of the Polyblend and bitumen, which that is made up of the Polyblend that is made up of the modified like plastic waste, helps in the enhancement of the properties of the mixture that is used to lay the roads. So the raw material for creating Polyblend is any plastic film waste. So against the price of 0.40 per kg that the rag pickers had been getting for plastic waste, Khan now offers them ₹6. And using this technique, by the year 2002, more than 40 kilometers of road in Bangalore has already been laid. At this rate, Khan will soon be running short of plastic waste in Bangalore to produce the polyblend. Because like if we start using this plastic waste in some purposeful for some purposeful like purposefully or for some innovative approach like this, then obviously we will be able to reduce the plastic waste. So this polyblend is a mixture that helps in the reduction of the plastic waste. So thanks to the innovations like polyblend, we might still avoid being smothered by the plastic waste. The next type of waste is the agrochemical waste. And so we know that in the wake of a green revolution, for the increased production of the plants, the use of inorganic fertilizers and pesticides has increased many times for enhancing the crop production. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, etc. are being increasingly used for the increased production of the food. And however, these incidentally are also toxic to the non-target organisms. So these may have harmful effects on the humans or on the soil ecosystem, where it may degrade the number of where it may harm the useful bacteria also. So we know that the addition of increasing amount of chemical fertilizers can also, when run off to the aquatic ecosystem, may also lead to the destruction of the aquatic ecosystem by the process which is known as eutrophication, which we discussed in the last class. That is the aging of the increased or rapid aging of the lakes or the rivers due to the runoff of the fertilizers into the river. And the current problems in agriculture are therefore extremely grave. So this is the case study for organic farming, where the people have tried to use like the organic farming. Instead of using the chemical fertilizers, they have instead of chemical fertilizers, they waste material from different cattle like dungs can be used as a manure. So the approach was used by the farmer at Sonipat, Haryana. So the approach is known as the integrated organic farming. So integrated organic farming is a cyclical zero waste procedure where waste products from one process are involved in as nutrients for other process. For example, if I am having a cattle, I am having a field. So I can use the waste product from the cattle, that is the dung of that cattle, for as a manure for my field, and the waste product from my field as the food for my cattle. So this is a cyclical zero waste procedure where waste products from one process are recycled in as nutrients for other process. So this allows the maximum utilization of resource and increasing the efficiency of production. So Ramesh Chandra Dagar, who is a farmer in Sonipat, Haryana, is just doing this. He includes beekeeping, dairy management, water harvesting, composting, and agriculture in a chain of process which support each other and allow an extremely economical and sustainable venture. So there is no need to use chemical fertilizers for crops, as cattle excreta dung can be used for the manure. Crop waste is used to create the compost, which can be used as a natural fertilizer or can be used to generate the natural gas for satisfying the energy needs of the farm. So basically, he was using the crop waste as a natural fertilizers or as a natural gas for satisfying the energy needs of the farm. So in this way, all of the waste is being consumed for all of the activities and resulting in a zero waste production. Enthusiastic about spreading the information and helping on the practice of the integrated organic farming, Dagar has created the Haryana Kisan Welfare Club with a current membership of around 5,000 farmers or more. So this was about the agrochemicals and their effects. The next is the nuclear, the waste which is being generated from the nuclear, that is a radioactive waste. So initially, the nuclear energy was hailed as a non-polluting way for generating electricity. However, later on, it was realized that the use of nuclear energy has two very serious inherent problems. The first is the accidental leakage, as it occurred in the 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl incident. And the second is the safe disposal of the radioactive waste. So it is really very like harmful if the radioactive waste is being disposed in the open, because the radiations that are being generated from this nuclear waste is extremely damaging to the organisms, as it can damage the DNA or it can lead to the mutation in the DNA of the organism at a very high rate. So they may act as mutagens for us, and the damage in the DNA may lead at high doses. This nuclear radiation are lethal, but at lower doses, such nuclear radiations are being used to create various like it creates various disorders. One of the most common is cancer, as we all know. It can be caused due to the mutations, and these mutations may be caused due to the result exposure to the harmful radioactive waste materials or harmful radioactive radiations. Therefore, nuclear waste is an extremely potent pollutant and has to be dealt with utmost care, because a single incidence of leakage of these radioactive material into the atmosphere may cause the complete chaos. So the different types of pollution and so the different types of pollution have actually lead to a phenomena which is known as the greenhouse warming or the greenhouse effect or the global warming. So the term greenhouse effect has basically been derived from a phenomena that occurs in a greenhouse, where the plants are being grown in a surrounding covered with the glasses, so that the sunlight, the energy from the sun can be trapped into that area, which can be utilized by the plants. A common example of greenhouse effect is very like we can clearly observe from when we sit in a car that is being exposed to the sun for a very long time, and when we go and sit in that car, we can feel the greenhouse effect. We know that the car is like we can feel the hot that rise in the temperature inside the car if compared to the surroundings, because of the entrapped heat inside the car. So this is one of the examples which we can realize the greenhouse effect in our daily life. So the greenhouse effect, however, the greenhouse effect is a naturally occurring phenomena which is responsible for heating of the Earth's surface and the atmosphere. However, up to a certain limit, this greenhouse effect is actually important for us, because this greenhouse effect actually helps in managing the average temperature. So without greenhouse effect, the average temperature of at the surface of the Earth would have been a chilly minus 18 degrees centigrade rather than the present average of the 15 degrees centigrade. So therefore, the natural process of greenhouse effect is little bit important. And in order to understand the greenhouse effect, it is really necessary to know the fate of the energy of the sunlight that reaches the outermost atmosphere. So clouds in the gases reflect mostly 1/4 of the 1/4 of the incoming solar radiations are being reflected by the clouds or the various gases that are present in the outer atmosphere, and some of them, but almost half of the falls on the incoming solar radiation falls on the Earth's surface, heating it, while a small proportion is reflected back. So Earth's surface re-emits heat in the form of infrared radiation, but part of this does not escape. So some of this is like the Earth's surface also tries to like reflect this in the form of infrared radiation, but some of which is not escape into the atmosphere and absorb, and the atmospheric gases like carbon dioxide, methane. So greenhouse gases absorb the long wave infrared radiation from the Earth and emit it again towards the Earth. So this cycle continues till the Earth's surface has no long wave radiation to emit. And this emitting back of the infrared radiation to the surface of the Earth by these greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide basically leads to the heating of the Earth's surface than the normal temperature. So these are some of the greenhouse gases that contributes to the increase in the temperature. So carbon dioxide is one of the major greenhouse gas. Then CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, methane, and nitrogen oxides. So increase in the level of these greenhouse gases has led to considerable heating of the earth, leading to the global warming. So global warming is basically the effect of greenhouse gas. And during the past century, the temperature of the earth has increased by 0.6 degrees centigrade. Most of it, especially during the last 30 years or the last 3 decades. Scientists believe that if this rise in the temperature continues at this rate, then it may cause the deleterious effects on the environment, resulting in the odd climatic changes, which is example El Nino effect, thus leading to increased melting point. This is what we all are experiencing today, the increased melting point of polar ice caps as well as of other places like the Himalayan snow caps. So this melting has led to the glacier melting has led to the problems like flooding, etc. Also, more of the water is now getting melted. Those were actually the reservoirs, and now they are getting into the rivers, and much of them is getting polluted. So all these have deleterious effect, and if this keep on happening, it will have the deleterious effects and due to the deleterious changes in the environment and result in the odd climatic changes. Over many years, this will result in a rise in sea level, as I mentioned, that can submerge many coastal areas. The total spectrum of changes that global warming can bring about is a subject that is still under the active research. So this is still under the investigation that what are the different, what can be the impact of this global warming on the humans as well as on the environment. So one of the effect is the ozone depletion in the stratosphere. So ozone is a gas that is O3. It is found in the upper part of the atmosphere, which is called the stratosphere, and it acts as a shield for absorbing the ultraviolet radiations from the sun. So UV rays that are highly injurious to living organisms, since DNA and proteins of living organism preferentially absorbs UV rays, and its high energy breaks the chemical bond within the molecules, resulting in the mutation and resulting in diseases like cancer. So the thickness of the ozone in a column of air from the ground to the top of the atmosphere is measured in terms of Dobson units, and this thickness is decreasing. So the ozone gas is continuously formed by the action of UV rays as on molecular oxygen. So whenever on molecular oxygen, like on O2, the UV rays act, this degrades or into the molecular oxygen. So basically, ozone is being getting degraded on by the effect of the harmful gases, by the emission of harmful gases, and there should be a balance between the production and degradation of ozone in the stratosphere. So basically, on molecular oxygen, when UV rays act, it leads to the generation of free radicals. These free radicals then combine with another ozone molecule, resulting in the formation of ozone. However, this ozone is being getting degraded into the molecular oxygen due to the harmful gases like CFCs, and therefore there should be a balance between the production and degradation of ozone in the stratosphere. If we keep on producing the harmful gases like CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, these will keep on depleting the ozone layer into the molecular oxygen, and therefore more of the harmful UV rays will be able to reach the surface of the earth, causing mutations and leading to the diseases like cancer. As we see that nowadays cancer, the rate at which the number of cancer types of cancer, number of cancer patients are increasing is really high. So of late, the balance has been disrupted due to the enhancement of the ozone degradation by the chlorofluorocarbons. Chlorofluorocarbons are the gas which are widely used in refrigerant or the air conditioners. So CFCs discharged in the lower part of the atmosphere move upward and reach the stratosphere. Now in stratosphere, this UV rays act on them, releasing the chlorine atom. So chlorofluorocarbon. So in this, the chlorine atom is released. The chlorine degrades the ozone, releasing the molecular oxygen, with these atoms acting merely as catalyst. So chlorine atoms are not consumed in this reaction. The chlorine here is acting as a catalyst in the reaction, where it is hence whatever CFCs are added to the atmosphere, they have permanent and continuing effects on the ozone levels. Although ozone depletion is occurring widely in the stratosphere, the depletion is particularly marked over the Antarctica region, and ozone hole has been observed over this region. So this has resulted in the formation of a large area of thin ozone layer, which is commonly called as the ozone hole. Now the UV radiation of wavelength shorter than UVB are almost completely absorbed by the Earth's atmosphere, given that the ozone layer is intact. But UVB damages DNA and mutation may occur. So it causes aging of skin, damage to the skin cells, and various types of skin cancers like melanoma. So in human eye, cornea, which is present in the human eye, also absorbs UVB radiation, and a very high dose of UVB causes inflammation of cornea called snow blindness, cataract, etc. So such exposure may completely or permanently damage the cornea. Recognizing this deleterious effect of ozone depletion, an international treaty which is known as the Montreal Protocol, it was signed at the Montreal, Canada in 1987. It was signed in 1987, but it is effective from 1989 to control the emission of the ozone, that is O3, and ozone depleting substances. So subsequently, many more efforts have been made and protocols have been laid down, definite roadmaps separately for developed and developing countries for reducing the emission of chlorofluorocarbons and other ozone depleting chemicals. So this Montreal Protocol was an international treaty which is signed in the Canada in 1987, effective from 1989, that works on the control of the emission of ozone depleting substances. The next reason for this is the next reason for the imbalances in the ecosystem or one of the important environmental issues is the improper resource utilization. So soil erosion and desertification is one of the major reasons. It can be the development of the fertile topsoil takes centuries, but due to some human activities, it can easily be removed. So overcultivation, unrestricted grazing, deforestation, poor irrigation practices result in the conversion of the fertile land into the arid patches. Now, when large barren patches extend and meet over a time, a desert is created. Internationally, it has been recognized that desertification is a major problem nowadays, particularly due to increased urbanization, where we are clearing the forest for increasing the land for the process of urbanization. The next is the waterlogging and soil salinity. So irrigation without proper drainage of water leads to the problem of waterlogging in the soil. Now, beside affecting the crops, waterlogging draws salt to the surface of the soil. The water tries to draw the salt to the surface of the soil. The salt then eventually gets deposited as a thin crust on the land surface or start collecting at the root of the plants. This increased salt content is inimical to the growth of the crops and is extremely damaging to the agriculture. Waterlogging and soil salinity are some of the problems that have come in the wake of the Green Revolution due to the increased use of the fertilizers especially. Deforestation, we know, is one of the one of the major human activities that has led to the conversion of the basically decrease in the number of forests. So it is the conversion of the forested areas to the non-forested ones. And according to an estimate, almost 47% of the forests have been lost in the tropics compared to 1% in the temperate region. However, the present scenario of deforestation is particularly grim in India. At the beginning of the 20th century, forests covered about 30% of the land of India. But by the end of this century, it covered to 21.54%, whereas the National Forest Policy 1988 of India has recommended. So, according to the recommendation, around 33% forest cover for the plains and 67% for the hills is recommended. But due to the rapid decrease or rapid cutting down of forest or due to the process of deforestation in India, the forest land in India has shrunk from the 30% to the 21.54%. Now, what are the causes? One of the major reasons is, as we know, is the conversion of the forest to agricultural land so as to feed the growing human population. Also, trees are cut for their wood, like timber, firewood, cattle ranching, and for several other processes. Techniques like slash and burn agriculture, which is also called as jhum cultivation in the northeastern states of India, has contributed to the deforestation. So basically in slash and burn agriculture, the farmers cut down the trees of the forest and burn the plant remains. Now the ash is used as a fertilizer and the land is then used for farming or cattle grazing. After cultivation, the area is left for several years so as to allow its recovery. The farmer then move on to the other areas and repeat this process. So in earlier days when it was in prevalence, enough time gap was given to the land recovered from the effect of cultivation. Now, with the increase in the population, with the increasing demand of food and the repeated cultivation, this recovery phase is done away with, the resulting in the deforestation. So basically, people do not give this enough time to recover such lands, and ultimately due to the repeated cultivation of these repeated cultivation on these lands, these soil fertility decreases, and ultimately the nutrient is not sufficient in the soil to allow the growth. Now, what are the consequences of deforestation? So, one of the major effects is the enhanced carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, because we know that trees could hold a large amount of carbon in their biomass, and due to the loss of these trees by the process of deforestation, there is an increased concentration of carbon dioxide. Deforestation also causes loss of biodiversity, because deforestation may result in the habitat loss. Habitat destruction disrupts hydrological cycle, it causes soil erosion, and it may lead to desertification in the extreme cases. Opposite to deforestation is a reforestation, is the process of restoring a forest that once existed but was removed at some points of time in the past. So reforestation may either occur naturally in a deforested area, or we can simply speed up this process of deforestation by planting the trees with due consideration to the biodiversity that existed earlier in that area. So, some of the case studies have been presented to understand the various steps that have been taken by the different population at the population level, or at the community level, and at the government level. So, in 1731, the king of Jodhpur asked one of his ministers to arrange wood for constructing a new palace, and the ministers and workers went to a forest near a village inhabited by Bishnois. So Bishnois is a community is known for the peaceful coexistence with the nature, and basically these people, the people of Bishnoi community, try to halt the ministers and the workers from cutting down the forest. A Bishnoi woman, Amrita Devi, showed exemplary courage by hugging a tree and daring king's man to cut her first before cutting the tree. And thereby this movement is known as the Chipko movement, where these people hug the trees and basically they show the exemplary courage by showing that the tree mattered much more to them than her own life. Sadly, the king's man did not heed to her pleas and cut down the tree along with Amrita Devi. Her 3 daughters and hundreds of other Bishnois followed her and thus lost their lives saving the trees. The government of India has recently, the government of India has recently instituted an award for this, which is known as the Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award for individuals or communities from rural areas that have shown extraordinary courage and dedication in protection of wildlife. So similar to this movement, another movement, as I mentioned, Chipko movement, where the people hug the trees and try to manage or try to protect the cutting down of trees by the contractors. So in 1974, local women showed enormous bravery in protecting the trees. People all over the world have acclaimed the Chipko movement. Now, realizing the significance of participation by local communities, since the people are participating a lot in managing the forest, the government of India in 1980 introduced the concept of joint forest management. So the term itself represents the management of the forest at the joint level, both by the government and the local communities, so that the government work in close association with the local communities for protecting and managing the forest. So in return for their services to the forest, the communities get benefit of various forest products like fruits, gum, rubber, medicine, etc. And thus the forest can be conserved in a sustainable manner. So these are some of the steps that were taken at the people. Also, we ourselves can take steps at our homes also by planting a single tree. Even like planting a sapling and taking care of it lifetime might help in the will help a lot in reduction of the pollution and will help like this small contribution will have a significant impact on the environmental health. With this, I would like to request all of you that if possible, we all should at least try to plant a single tree in our life, and if possible, even year if on yearly basis we can plant one tree on yearly basis, then this will be really helpful for the environment as well as for our future generations. So with this, I would like to thank you all for attending this lecture, and with this we are ending the chapter environmental issues. Thank you so much for attending, and if you have any queries, feel free to contact me. Thank you.